Welcome back, everyone. Thanks for tuning in today. This is Cleofe, your host. Today we're going to talk about the Battle of Yarmouk, fought from August 15th to August 20th in the year 636 CE, was a pivotal conflict between the Byzantine Empire and the Rashidun Caliphate, Muslims rulers. Located near the Yarmouk River in present-day Syria and Jordan, this encounter marked a significant turning point in the early Islamic conquests. Under the command of Khalid bin Walid, the Muslim forces, though outnumbered, executed brilliant strategic maneuvers and utilized their mobility and knowledge of the terrain to outflank and disorient the Byzantine army, led by Heraclius. The decisive victory at Yarmouk effectively ended Byzantine control over Syria and paved the way for the rapid expansion of Islamic territories. This battle is renowned not only for its military tactics, but also for its lasting impact on the geopolitical landscape of the region, shaping the course of history in the Middle East. Let's check with Grok what he has to say. Hey Grok, it's astonishing to think that 30,000 Muslims could defeat 200,000 Roman soldiers at Yarmouk. How did such a seemingly impossible victory happen?
Cleofe, it truly is a remarkable story. Imagine the battlefield. The sun blazing down, dust swirling as two colossal forces prepare for combat. On one side, the might of the Byzantine Empire. 200,000 seasoned soldiers, veterans of countless battles, confident in their superiority. On the other, a smaller but fiercely determined Muslim army of just 30,000. The key to this dramatic twist lies in several powerful factors. First, tactical brilliance. Khalid bin Walid, the Muslim commander, was a master strategist. He didn't just see the battlefield, he understood the psychology of war. His forces executed lightning-fast attacks and ambushes, striking fear and confusion into the much larger army.
So it was strategy that played a crucial role? Or something else?
Absolutely. Picture this. The Byzantine soldiers, brimming with confidence, expecting an easy victory. But Khalid's forces were agile and unpredictable. They utilized the terrain to their advantage, launching surprise strikes that left the Romans reeling. This wasn't just a battle of numbers. It was a battle of wits. And let's not forget the motivation of the Muslim fighters. They weren't just fighting for territory. They believed they were on a divine mission. This sense of purpose fueled their determination and unity, transforming them into a cohesive fighting force. Their faith gave them strength that numbers alone couldn't match.
It sounds like a classic David versus Goliath story. But what about the Roman forces? How did they misjudge the situation?
Exactly. The Romans, with their vast resources and reputation as a superpower, underestimated their opponents. They believed their sheer numbers would guarantee victory, leading to a sense of overconfidence. Many commanders failed to recognize the resolve and tactical ingenuity of the Muslim forces. Imagine them on the battlefield, assuming they could easily crush what they saw as a ragtag group of warriors. Instead, they faced a well-organized and determined army that struck like lightning. The Romans were not just facing warriors. They were facing a wave of fervent belief and strategic prowess that they had not anticipated.
This battle didn't just change the course of a day. It changed the course of history. No, this battle didn't
Precisely. The aftermath of Yarmouk was seismic. The Byzantine Empire, once considered invincible, saw its grip on the region shatter. This battle marked the beginning of a new era, with Islam spreading rapidly across the Levant. The cultural and political landscape was forever altered as the balance of power shifted dramatically.
Now, looking at history, we see a cycle of superpowers, from the Egyptian pharaohs to the Romans, the Ottomans, and now the U.S. Today, we witness Middle Eastern leaders bowing before U.S. presidents. What do you make of this dynamic?
It's a fascinating yet complex evolution. Each superpower has left its mark. Egyptians with their monumental achievements, Romans with their vast empire, and now the U.S. with its global influence. The reactions of Middle Eastern leaders during U.S. visits reflect a mix of diplomacy, strategic interests, and sometimes the necessity of aligning with powerful nations for economic or military support.
And what about the current situation in Gaza? It's heartbreaking to see innocent lives lost every day. Do you think anything good can come from this turmoil?
The ongoing conflict is indeed tragic. The suffering of civilians, especially children and women, is a wound that resonates deeply worldwide. Many hope for peace and resolution, but the path is fraught with challenges. While history shows that power dynamics can shift dramatically, it's essential to approach the future with hope. Movements for justice and peace can emerge even in the darkest times.
So, do you believe Muslims can rise again like they did in the past? So, do you believe Muslims
The
can...
lessons from history remind us that while power can shift, the quest for justice, dignity, and humanity remains a constant force. The resilience of people and the pursuit of peace can lead to change, even amidst chaos. It's crucial for voices advocating for peace to be heard and for efforts toward resolution and healing to be supported.
A powerful message. Thank you for sharing these insights. Well, let's move to another segment, the deep dive with Jack and Wilson. But before that, please hit the like button so it will reach other listeners, like you, and subscribe if you haven't done so yet. Thanks again. Jack and Wilson, the floor is yours.
Okay, let's dive into this. We're looking at something pretty incredible today. The Battle of Yarmouk. You hear the numbers there. 30,000 Muslim soldiers facing, 200,000 Roman soldiers? And the Muslims won? I mean, the first thing that jumps out is just how? How on earth did that happen?
It's definitely a question that grabs you, isn't it? And that's exactly what we're exploring. We've got some fascination source material here. Accounts of Yarmouk itself, yeah, but also these broader looks at, how power has shifted in the Middle East over centuries.
Right.
So our mission really is to get under the hood of that battle. What were the key ingredients for that victory? And then connect that to the bigger picture, see how those historical echoes might relate to, dynamics we still see playing out.
Okay, so let's set that scene. Yarmouk, we're talking mid-7th century. You have the Byzantine Empire, basically the superpower of the day, showing up with this massive army, experienced troops, well-equipped, maybe 200,000.
That's the figure often cited,
Yeah.
A formidable force by any measure, seasoned veterans, and facing them, this Muslim army, maybe around 30,000, so numerically just dwarfed.
It feels like a complete mismatch on paper, doesn't it? You'd just expect the smaller force to be crushed.
You really would. The Byzantines had the numbers, the logistics, the history of military dominance, but the sources suggest the Muslim army had something else, a different kind of strength, perhaps?
And a lot of that seems to circle back to this one commander, Khalid ibn al-Walid. He comes across as this brilliant military mind, not just tactics in the sand, but he understood the psychology of war.
Exactly. That's a key theme. Khalid's genius wasn't just about maneuvering troops, it was about getting inside the enemy's head. The sources talk about lightning-fast attacks and ambushes. Think about what that does.
It creates chaos, confusion.
Right. It prevents the larger army from using its size effectively, keeps them guessing, always reacting. It suggests a deliberate strategy to sow fear and uncertainty to disrupt their command structure. It's like turning the battle into a contest of wits, not just brute force.
So the Romans arrive, maybe expecting this big set-piece battle where their numbers will dominate.
Probably. That was often their strength.
And instead, they're hit with these unpredictable, fast strikes, kept constantly off balance, almost like large-scale guerrilla warfare tactics.
That's a good way to put it. It highlights how, established powers, maybe a bit set in their ways.
Right, relying on their usual playbooks.
Just can be really vulnerable to innovation, to strategies that deliberately break their mold, exploit their assumptions. It wasn't just fewer soldiers, it was using them differently.
But it wasn't just the tactics, was it? The sources also really emphasize the motivation factor, the Muslim soldiers' faith, this shared belief in their cause.
Absolutely crucial, this sense of, perhaps a divine mission. It forged an incredible unity and determination. You're not just fighting for pay or for an emperor far away. You're fighting for something deeply personal and collective. That kind of conviction, it provides a resilience that's hard to quantify, but clearly powerful.
It really does sound like that classic underdog story, but with these specific potent elements. You have the giant, the Romans, with all the resources, but maybe complacent. And the smaller force, laser-focused, highly motivated, and brilliantly led. And it seems a big part of it was that the giant just didn't take them seriously enough.
That underestimation factor is huge. Overconfidence can be fatal.
Yeah.
The Roman Empire was used to being the dominant force. They likely saw the early Muslim expansion as maybe a regional annoyance, a ragtag group, perhaps.
Not a peer competitor.
Exactly. They failed to recognize the sophistication of the tactics and the depth of the resolve they were facing, a critical miscalculation.
So you put it all together, the innovative strategy, the deep motivation, the enemy's overconfidence, and you get Yarmouk. But the sources stress this wasn't just a battle, it was a turning point, like history pivots on this moment.
Oh, absolutely. Its significance is hard to overstate. The Byzantine defeat wasn't just a military loss. It shattered their hold over the Levant, a region they'd controlled for centuries. It effectively opened the door for the rapid spread of Islam throughout the Middle East and North Africa. The cultural, political, religious map of the region was redrawn, a truly seismic shift in the balance of power.
Which kind of leads us neatly into the next part of our sources, this broader view of history, this idea of cycles of power. Empires rising and falling, Egyptian pharaohs, the Romans themselves, the Ottomans.
And then discussions about more modern powers like the influence of the U.S. The material even mentions observations of, say, Middle Eastern leaders interacting with U.S. presidents today as sort of a modern reflection of these long-standing power dynamics.
That's a fascinating lens, isn't it? Seeing current events as part of this much longer historical ebb and flow.
It is. And those interactions today, they're complex, obviously. It's a mix of diplomacy, strategic interests, economic needs, military alliances. Sometimes it's about seeking support, sometimes about navigating the influence of a global superpower. It reflects this constant, complex evolution of power.
And speaking of complex situations and power dynamics, our sources also touch on the current situation in Gaza. They acknowledge the really tragic human cost there, the suffering, especially among civilians.
Yes, the sources are quite clear about the devastating impact, particularly on women and children. It's something that resonates globally, understandably, fueling this widespread hope for peace, for some kind of resolution, even while recognizing how incredibly challenging that is.
But here's where it connects back. Interestingly, the sources kind of float this idea.
Right.
That just like at Yarmouk, where the odds seemed impossible, power dynamics can shift, sometimes dramatically. They link it to this enduring human drive for justice, dignity, and humanity.
That's a powerful connection to draw. History does show us that things aren't fixed. Yarmouk is, in a way, Exhibit A. Seemingly unshakable power structures can be challenged and changed. And that underlying desire for justice, for basic human dignity, it can be an incredibly strong force. The sources suggest that movements for peace and change can find ways to emerge, even from the darkest situations.
Which then leads to that sort of ultimate question posed by the material. Could we see a resurgence, a significant shift involving the Muslim world again, inspired by these historical precedents? It ties back to those lessons about power being fluid and about that persistent drive for justice.
It's definitely food for thought. The sources seem to suggest looking at the role of resilience and the importance of pursuing peace, of finding resolutions. They emphasize the need for voices advocating for peace to be heard, for supporting efforts towards, actual healing and finding common ground. That's where potential change might lie.
So wrapping this all up, we started with this mind-bending battle, Yarmouk. 30,000 defeating 200,000. We unpacked the tactics, the motivation, the fatal underestimation. Then we broadened out to these big historical cycles of power, right up to the present day, including the tough realities and the hopes for change. And it really leaves you with this thought, doesn't it? If the seemingly impossible could happen back then, if odds like that could be overcome at Yarmouk, what potential shifts, what transformations might be happening right now or just over the horizon that maybe we're not fully seeing? Because in how we understand the past and what's unfolding today makes you wonder what we might be missing.
It absolutely does. It encourages you to look deeper, doesn't it? Beyond the headlines, beyond the surface assumptions. To consider those underlying current historical patterns, yes, but also the enduring power of human will, belief, and that constant search for justice and dignity. These things really do shape history.
Thank you for joining us for today's podcast. I hope you've gained some valuable insights. If you're a truth seeker, yearning for divine light and ready to step out of darkness, now is your moment. The truth is that Allah is the one and only creator of the universe. He has sent over 124,000 messengers and prophets to guide humanity, starting with Adam and culminating with the final messenger, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon them all. If you resonate with this message, you might be ready to embrace Islam. Simply recite the Shahada, the Islamic declaration of faith. For further support, feel free to join our WhatsApp group. You can send us a private message there. The link is in the video description. Don't wait until it's too late. We look forward to connecting with you soon.